Hey guys, welcome back to Jurassic Collectibles. I hope you're all doing really well. Today we're joined by a special guest. It's John from the JHM Files. Say hello, John.
Hello.
John, could you tell us a little bit about your channel and your articles and what you've been up to?
Yeah, so basically a few years ago started a blog because I wanted to write about games, and then it sort of timed in nicely with Jurassic sort of taking off again, and as time went on I realised I really wanted to write about Jurassic and Jurassic World, so I segued into writing about those as well, and then eventually decided I wanted to do podcast versions of the articles, and that's what led to this.
That's cool. And what's your content called? Where can they find you?
They can find me on the jhnfiles.com, and the site has a Twitter account which is really just really only posts when there's new things, so it won't batter you over the head with content or anything, but that's really the best place to keep up with new articles and stuff.
That's cool. And you've got a YouTube channel as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
And that's called Channel 2, right?
No, that's just called the JHM Files channel. Channel 2 is just a podcast on the JHM Files.
Got you. Yeah. Now, I'm really glad to have you on today because I feel like your content aligns with the way I feel about the Jurassic Park franchise. And I felt it was important to introduce you to the Jurassic Collectibles fans so they're aware of you. So I'll put links to all your stuff in the description down below. But the main reason I wanted to chat to you today is because over the Christmas holidays I've been thinking about an alternative Jurassic Park 4 plot, and it's not that I'm trying to sort of undo the work of Jurassic World. It's more that I'm just trying to tell an alternative story that I feel might flow a bit better from the first 3 films. It's kind of like a what if scenario, a bit like an expanded universe comic of, you know, what would happen in this universe if this happened. And I know that both you and I didn't really enjoy Jurassic World massively, but I don't want this to be a big criticism of Jurassic World. I want this more to be, here's an alternative story, and this is kind of my pitch. And I thought you're the perfect person to pitch this to, because you're so immersed in the Jurassic Park franchise and you're a big fan of the original films. Were you a fan of The Lost World? You weren't such a big fan of The Lost World, am I right?
Not initially. When I was a kid, I was completely taken aback by how different it was to Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But I have developed an appreciation for it as times went on, and it's now nothing will ever touch the first one, but it's right up there.
Okay, right. Well, I'm going to crack on with this alternative pitch for the 4th Jurassic Park, and it's interesting because it does tie back into those original films. I won't talk about the themes. I'll come back to the themes at the end, but the opening of my story starts with the pteranodons from Jurassic Park 3, and they're actually attacking a fishing boat at night. Well,
I have to say, I much prefer that to attacking a baseball game.
Well, it's kind of like, I was kind of inspired by the Lost World opening, the fact that they have a fishing boat that pulls up the carcass of a Parasaurolophus. That was going to be the original opening of the Lost World. And I always loved that opening, this idea of finding this relic. And Steven Spielberg always said he was inspired by Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World novel. And I kind of felt like that finding of a relic, finding this piece of evidence, was a good place to start this new chapter, Jurassic Park 4. So you have the pteranodons attack the fishing boat, and they kill 3 fishermen. And one of the pterosaurs is harpooned, and the other 2 pteranodons drown. So I'm trying to treat this as like a very real world situation where the pteranodons would just basically, because of the rain, they'd just swoop down low and the sea would get them. So 2 of the pteranodons die, and the other one is harpooned. And in the kind of like the movement of it kind of being harpooned to the deck, it actually tears its arm off, and all that's left is just the wing pinned to the deck of this fishing boat.
Oh, it's a very nice image.
Yeah, I was thinking something kind of Indiana Jones-esque, where there's like a relic at the beginning of the story, and this is kind of like the start of the story. It's kind of like an incident, a bit like the other Jurassic Park films, but also it's inspired by The Lost World. I think in The Lost World they actually find the arm of a pterosaur and take that back to London as a sample in order to get people to go back to the Amazon rainforest and go onto the plateau. So it's kind of like a callback to that. But essentially it could be any part of a dinosaur. I just really wanted to get that Parasaurolophus feeling in there. And then we go forward about 4 months. And basically we learn that on the mainland, lab results have shown that actually the pterosaur bones have qualities that they've never noticed in the Jurassic Park dinosaurs before. They have regenerative properties potentially that could be used in human medicine. And it's like an attribute that they've never known about before. And the scientists speculate it could actually be found in multiple species from the old park due to like a similar evolutionary stage that was present in all prehistoric life at that time. This is their theory anyway. And what they believe is that it could be used for life extension, so granting humans up to an extra 70 years of life. And my thinking is here that kind of Jurassic Park is dealing with extinction and revival of new life.
Yeah.
It's basically like taking these dinosaurs that were alive 65 million years ago and bringing them back to life. Well, my idea is kind of like we're extending that. So we're taking that idea and going one step further. What if we could extend our own lives beyond extinction? And that's the...
It's actually a very nice thematic idea. It's actually one of the few sort of ideas where you're taking the technology and applying it to humans that I haven't just immediately went, nope, to.
Yeah,
so
and
it's a nice idea.
I did originally think like maybe I'm going too much down a deep blue sea route, you know, because they have that thing where they're curing dementia in deep blue sea. And I was thinking, I don't want to go too much down that route. But the idea that it could extend the lives of humans, kind of like delaying our own extinction, I thought was kind of like an interesting theme based on the past, you know, Jurassic Park bringing these animals back to life. So it's kind of like doing the inverse. So it's kind of like this mainland presentation where you see these lab results being presented about the pterosaur wing, and it kind of ends with them saying kind of out of numerous tragedies at Jurassic Park comes a new hope for mankind. So despite all these horrible things that have happened and the public is aware of, we're actually we've got something that presents a new hope.
I'm interested in it. It's worth saying that you didn't brief me on this or anything, so I have no idea where you're going, and I'm very interested to hear.
Well, that's really good. That's really reassuring, because I was afraid that maybe this would sound too deep blue sea-ish at this point. And you know, if listeners want to leave a comment down below about what they think at this stage, I'd love to hear your thoughts throughout in terms of, you know, this alternative Jurassic Park 4 plot. But then we skip about 6 years later, so it's quite a big jump. And we're in Montana, and we're with Alan Grant. And he's an old man.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, it has to be Alan Grant. I mean, come on. It's like...
Yeah, of course.
I love Alan Grant.
You know, we talked about why I was so taken aback by The Lost World, and I was a kid, and I was, where is Alan Grant? It was just such a shock to me to have Malcolm back.
Yeah, I remember feeling the same way, actually, initially, when I saw the trailer for The Lost World. I didn't see any Alan Grant, and I remember thinking, where's Alan and Ellie? You know, these main characters that I've, you know, kind of...
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so we start off with Alan, and he's an old man, and he receives an email from a company called Cyantech, asking him to consult in Costa Rica. There's a light-hearted scene where Alan actually sits down and tries to compose an email using the computer at kind of arm's length, and he gets really frustrated with the technology really quickly. You know, it's kind of like calling back to the first film, the way that technology doesn't get on with him, and he hates computers. And his daughter notices he's having trouble, takes his seat and transcribes for him. So this is when we introduce his daughter.
And who is this daughter's mother?
So, well, we don't know, because Alan, I feel like Alan is a bit of a free spirit. I feel like he might have had lots of partners in his lifetime, because he's left Ellie, and I felt like Ellie was a really good fit for him, but obviously that didn't work out. So I feel like he's had this daughter at some point in his life, and he's kind of like an only parent now, or the mother has gone on, and he's decided to stay with his daughter.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you continued that sort of theme or that plot line from Jurassic Park 3 and didn't sort of convolutedly say, well, Ellie broke up with her husband and they got back together.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, that's the thing.
It's controversial, but I really like the fact that they didn't end up together. It seems it's realistic. It sort of deconstructs the fairy tale you might have imagined at the end of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's right. I think a lot of people found that Ellie and Alan breaking up was quite disappointing, but I agree with you. I thought it was quite realistic, and it's one of the things I actually like in the new Fallen Kingdom trailer, the fact that Owen and Claire have broken up. It adds this new sense of conflict between those characters.
A good point.
I think if they'd carried on the fairy tale, them being together, even if one of them had just gone to the island and the other one had stayed on the mainland, but they were still together, I still think it wouldn't have worked so well.
I was just going to say it's a similar case of a nice sense of realism that Owen and Claire sort of had this really intense experience together, and then once it was over, they were like, oh, maybe this doesn't work quite as well as we thought. It's just a nice touch
of realism again. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's almost like in the spur of the moment, that's kind of why they got together. It's kind of like the thrill of it, which kind of makes sense. But his daughter is actually called Ellie,
nice
which
touch.
I thought was cool because it's kind of like his unrequited love, like the one that he really wanted to stay with, so he calls his daughter Ellie. And so Alan dictates that he is sending his daughter Ellie in his place because he can't travel, he's got too much to do at the dig site. And he says, this is more your thing. You know, you're a young person, you know about technology, so this is more your thing. So it feels right that he's kind of passing this on to the next generation.
And I was just thinking as you were describing it, I was just thinking passing the torch. It's a very nice way to do it.
Yeah, I just thought the lightheartedness of him with the technology, it sort of like represents the reasoning for him passing on in a very simple little scene, but also lets us catch up with him and also meet his daughter, which is kind of cool at the same time. And I feel like Ellie is the key character in this film. Ellie will be the one who's the hero of the film. So when Ellie gets on the helicopter, she learns that Isla Nublar has been bought by this company, Scientech. It's a pharmaceutical company looking at life extension, funnily enough, and they have used the properties of Jurassic Park's dinosaurs to gain investors and lease the island, so the original island, Isla Nublar. And I like the fact that they went to the original island in Jurassic World. I was never against that idea. I felt there was some reasoning that needed to be shown how they acquired the island, and I think actually now they're going to do a prequel book, is that right, to explain the backstory?
Yeah, bit conflicted about that because I was talking to someone on Twitter where I said I hope the arc of that book is sort of Claire liking dinosaurs, then coming to the end of it and seeing them as assets,
right? Okay.
And then sort of setting up Jurassic World, because if she sort of falls in love with dinosaurs in that book, what the hell does that mean for her arc in the films? You know, but I do hope they get into how they came back to the island, because there's some, I know it's I'm not entirely sure whether it's 100% canon, but the sort of fan backstory that Jack Ewins and stuff made is really fantastic.
Yeah,
so
I really like their stuff. I really hope they're involved in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I think they show a lot of care. So when Ellie gets on the helicopter, she learns that Isla Nublar has been bought by this company, and their goal is to develop this life extension drug. And the helicopter is actually, instead of going to Costa Rica, it's redirected to Isla Nublar mid-flight. And Ellie sends a message on her cell phone to her father, Alan, to let him know, because she's kind of like, just to let you know. She doesn't see it as a problem, but obviously Alan probably would. So it's kind of like a moment of like tension.
It's a little bit like Sarah and Malcolm in the Lost
World.
World.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like this sudden redirection of where you thought the story was going, and also it's unexpected, and suddenly we're off to the island. And she's joined by a handful of consultant scientists. I imagine these to be quite seasoned characters. They're quite grumpy, is a good way to put it. So that you don't get to see very much of each of the characters in this part. I want them to be quite like they are portrayed in the novel, and quite sort of short and quite macho and quite grumpy. That's the way I kind of see a lot of these characters being introduced. But probably the most important person on that helicopter is a recognisable face, Henry Wu.
Oh, great.
And Henry Wu actually explains that he met her father on Jurassic Park. And there's that nice sort of moment where they kind of connect. We don't really know what Henry's up to. We don't really get a sense of him being either sinister or good at this point.
I was just going to ask, are you going to treat Wu as sort of a grumpy type, or is he going to be sort of just an older version of the character we met in the first film?
I think he'd be the only one on the helicopter who actually kind of like gives her time of day. and all the rest are kind of mystery, or you get a little, maybe you get an indication of some of their characters. The way that kind of Ian Malcolm is a little bit sort of jokey, standoffish, maybe you could have someone like that in there as well.
Yeah.
Something that kind of rekindles that feeling of the helicopter going to Jurassic Park. And I'm not trying to just retread the steps of Jurassic Park. I have to be clear here. This was just a way I was thinking of getting her to the island. It could be completely different, but
yeah. Well, of course, there's limited ways to get to these islands, and the movies have done them all at this point. So you're going to be, I mean, the original trilogy, helicopter, boat, plane, you're going to retread something getting there.
Exactly.
So,
I was thinking maybe more like a militarized helicopter, or maybe it's the Cyan Tech one's a bit bulkier and squarer and just looks different. So you've got that different feel. So we get to Isla Nublar. And Isla Nublar under Cyan Tech takes the form of actually like a government subsidized safari resort, and it actually has like a pro-life, eco-friendly stance. So it's actually government funded, and it's aiming to sort of pass on the message and the wishes of John Hammond. All the profits from the park go back into life extension research, which actually takes place on the island. And due to past incidents and the public's awareness of the dangers of the dinosaurs, only the herbivores are actually visible to the public in the south of the island in a newly developed resort. So that's akin to Jurassic World, where you've got...
And the restricted area?
Yeah, but I see the design of the park being much more like the John Bell concept art. I don't know if you've seen the John Bell concept art. That was much more akin to what Jurassic Park was. Maybe not so... It was quite 90s feeling, John Bell's concept for Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit reined back in and a bit more eco-friendly. Everything's made of natural timber, all this kind of feeling. But you get a real sort of eco-friendly stance from visiting the park. It's definitely got more of a sort of organic feel to the island.
Well, it's not a massive surprise or anything, but obviously for some reason my brain just thought when they arrived on Nublar it was going to be this incredibly unpleasant place. So it's nice to get there and it just to be actually a positive experience.
Yeah, I kind of see it like a national park,
depending on where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like when you go to a national park, you feel safe, you feel educated, you feel like this is a place that actually has an authority over you. And I felt like, why not just extend that to Jurassic Park? Just... So
is this the place where, I know it's a sort of preserve, but can the public still go and visit?
Yes, or exactly. So it's a safari resort, but it's more like a national park. So it's treated more as a kind of educational, and that's why it's government subsidized, because it's trying to teach people about genetics and the dangers of genetics. But also it's kind of talking about life preservation and how important it is to hold on to these dinosaurs. Basically passing on the message of John Hammond that he had at the end of The Lost World. And actually the concept of the island itself is something that I feel could change. But that was just a way that I saw it. It's basically like an extension of a national park, but at Jurassic Park. So it's kind of like it's gone through its capitalist phase, and then eventually the government's kind of gone, oh right, we'll take over, we'll deal with it, but you're not having any dinosaurs that can eat anyone anywhere near the guest, because you've done that like a million times, and it's always ended in people dying. So what they've done is the carnivores are actually kept in a restricted part in the north of the island, right? And the old paddocks and pens have been restored and upgraded with new fence modules, right? So they've spent as little as possible, because this isn't the part that the public's going to see. So actually the T.rex moat and the main road from the first film are actually back again. And
well, that's a really nice way to bring in some nostalgia.
Yeah, and I thought that, like, imagine seeing the old main road back again, but maybe with just some slightly upgraded tech on the kind of the masts of the fences. You could have maybe some like big red metal modular pieces that just upgrade it a little bit, just make it look a little bit different, but it's really recognizable.
Like when you go from the low security fence to the high security fence in Operation Genesis.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a really good description of how it should look. And actually the raptor pens are back again as well. Mm-hmm. and that they're recognizable and in working order. The only difference is with the raptor pens, new walkways with glass walls allow the Scientech staff to kind of walk around the raptor pens and monitor them from a safe distance, because I always felt like that little platform was a little bit too close anyway. So the visitor centre in the south of the island has been rebuilt in its sort of original JP style.
Nice.
But it's much grander. It's huge. It's almost like a cathedral of visitor centre style. And the herbivores can actually pass through huge glass atriums that are actually part of the visitor centre. So they kind of look like living versions of the murals that we saw in the visitor centre in the original Jurassic Park.
Oh. There's some very nice ideas in here, I have to say.
Cool. I wasn't sure how that came across, because I think the visitor centre sometimes could be cut up. Like, I kind of like in Jurassic Park how it's cut off from the dinosaurs, but I was thinking it'd be really cool if you had that unexpected treat of seeing some dinosaurs.
Yeah, and if you sort of introduced it as, like, you established it as maybe the camera sort of makes people think it's a mural, and then it moves, and you're like, oh, it's a nice moment.
I like that. Yeah, that'd be really cool. That's a really good idea. I'm going to jot that one down. So then signage across the safari park is full of warnings, almost more so than Jurassic Park. So the park definitely lives in the shadow of the incidents that have come before it. And obviously, because it's government ran, they're really protective over the public. They don't want to cause any problems. Now, what we learn is that the testing of the dinosaurs for the pharmaceutical Scientech side of things takes place daily at a facility in the north of the island. So this would be kind of like the t.rex paddock. And we see that it's done in secret, and it is actually quite inhumane.
So there is a darker side.
There is a dark side.
This paradise.
Yeah, and they drug dinosaurs and take samples from their bones via machines that kind of drill into their spine. And it actually leaves them kind of wounded and weak. So we actually sympathise with the dinosaurs to a degree.
Which is absolutely as it should be.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I could go off on a wee tangent here about something that was brought up by the Fallen Kingdom trailer, but maybe we'll get to that.
Okay, no, go ahead. So what was it?
No, it was just I was listening to, in general, the podcast from the guys at Jurassic
I love their work. Fantastic stuff.
They made some fantastic points about the dinosaurs being treated as set pieces in that trailer, whereas we should have felt incredibly sorry for them instead of just enjoying the action.
That's right.
And it's sort of the same thing where you really should feel sorry for these creatures.
Yeah, and that was
when they're being mistreated.
And that's the thing. I kind of wanted to take a different stance on, basically, like, it's man's sort of greed for more life is causing these dinosaurs to have a lack of life in our time. It's kind of like a weird opposite of bringing these dinosaurs back to life. It's kind of like doing the inverse. It's bringing them back to life to use them.
It's a really nice concept, because when you introduced it to me at the beginning, I thought, oh, that's nice. That's a sort of altruistic way to bring them back and extend our lives with their lives. But then this twist, it's just really, really intriguing.
Cool.
I would go as far to say it's almost classic Jurassic. Like, it sort of presents this and then, oh no, it's on its head.
I'm glad you like it. That's really cool, and that's really reassuring, because I wasn't sure how the life extension thing would come across, if it was too woolly or. But I'm glad.
No, I think it almost also fits naturally with the Lost World book being a really intense exploration of extinction.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a nice thematic sort of continuity of that.
That's great. Okay, that's brilliant. Thanks, man. That's really good to hear. So they're kind of left wounded and weak, these dinosaurs. So yeah, you do I kind of think of like District 9, the way that I really sympathise with the insect aliens. I want you to kind of feel a degree of that. And anyway, at this facility, we meet an ambitious young geneticist called Zhang, who's basically like the new Henry Wu. And we learn that he's being mentored by Henry Wu. And Scientech and InGen are, in fact, working together on this. We don't know this up until this point. And in the lab, we see the rusted remains of the cryocan in a glass tray with the InGen logo on a sticker on the glass box. And behind it is a rack containing the original vials, like slightly muddied, and they sit in like a refrigerated unit behind glass. So there's kind of like this callback to this key prop that we recognize, kind of like the melted Darth Vader helmet moment in The Force Awakens. where
you could. It's a really nice moment because you could sort of have that when the camera picks up on it. And you have that sort of little flare of soundtrack to take you back. It could be a really nice little moment.
I'm hoping it would be like a trailer moment as well. Do you know what I mean? It would be like something you could insert in the trailer. But, ooh, it's the can. You know, it's kind of like
because of course you did see the sort of the refrigerator modules. I'm really messing up here, but you saw them in Jurassic World.
Oh, that's right. I really like that detail.
Yeah, but on one side, it's nice to just have it there because you don't need to make a big deal out of everything. But it would have sort of been nice to maybe trek past them or something a little bit, make it a little bit more obvious that they were there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, because is that just when they're packaging them up at the end to kind of store away the embryos?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think you just sort of see them in the background, totally innocuous. They're just there.
But yeah, I thought this kind of legacy prop would kind of like call back and make people go, ooh, they've got it. And also it shows that they've already got to a point where they've found it already and they've moved on beyond that point. So there's always like this nice sort of legacy story that we just, you know, we're that.
Here this is, but it's not the point of this film.
Yeah, we're beyond that now.
Yeah.
This is the end of side A. Please turn over to side B.